Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar entitled The City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and LA Sanitation, brought to you by the City of Los Angeles's Department of Cannabis Regulation. Before we get started, let's take a moment to review some housekeeping rules. Please note that tonight's webinar is being recorded and can be viewed after the editing process on DCR's website. You will be muted with cameras off for the duration of the webinar. This means that your camera and audio functions will not be available to you during the session. However, you will be able to see and hear all the panelists. There is an open chat box where you can interact with one another for networking or comment on the information being provided. Please use caution when sharing personal information in a public forum and keep your questions focused on tonight's topic. Please ask questions. Ask questions about tonight's subject matter in the Q&A box. We are gathering and responding to your questions throughout the presentation, and we'll have a Q&A session where you will also get responses in the last 15 minutes of tonight's event. You are encouraged to utilize the Q&A box at the bottom pane of the Zoom screen. If you use the Q&A box for questions, everyone will be able to see the questions when they are answered. And finally, please note that the content presented tonight was not created by the Department of Cannabis Regulation or the City of Los Angeles and is for informational purposes only. This information is subject to change and does not replace or supersede the Los Angeles Municipal Code, nor does it constitute legal advice. If you have specific questions outside of tonight's topic, please call 213-978-0738 during the business hours of Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to speak to a DCR representative. Tonight, we have several wonderful representatives from the City of Los Angeles, and we're happy to introduce them to you. First, I'd like to introduce our speakers from the Department of Water and Power, starting with Raymond Harper, who is the lead account advisor in the key account section of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which is the largest municipal utility in the nation. He is part of the industrial team responsible for customers who represent over $100 million in annual revenue. Raymond has been with the key accounts section for 6 years, and with the Department of Water and Power for 14 years. Next, we have Anisha Lee. She has worked as an account advisor for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power key accounts section for 2 years. Her current team supports governmental and institutional customers. Anisha provides assistance to federal and state agencies who represent over $52 million in annual revenue. We will be starting with a presentation from the Department of Water and Power by beginning with Raymond Harper. Raymond, please turn your screen on and start the presentation.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll share now. Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully the screen is up and you are able to see the presentation okay. Thank you all for inviting us to share this information, and thank you for attending tonight's presentation. And we are going to be talking about establishing water and electric service through the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I'll speak about the water portion, and my co-host or co-presenter, Anisha, will speak about the electric portion. So let's get started. The agenda tonight is going to be, we're going to talk about new service connections under water, establishing water service, a new service connection, which means there's nothing there. You're starting from scratch, you're putting up a building, and there is currently no service. And then we will speak about an existing service where you're moving into a situation where water is already connected and you are just asking to have that service turned over into your name. Same thing for electricity, new commercial service, as well as the existing commercial service once we get there. Okay, so water. This diagram is intended to show who is responsible for the lines and the equipment that is installed that provides water to your business, to your home, or whatever the hookup may be. The left portion from the meter, and the meter is that the big section between the sort of the dashed dotted line and the filled in black line. That's the meter, and that is installed by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So from the meter to the left, everything from the street up until we get to the meter is a responsibility of LADWP. If there are any leaks, if there are any issues, the meter is not working correctly, or there's something that needs to be checked out, we will come out and provide that service and make sure that everything is working well. From the meter, everything after that point to the right-hand side, all of your connections, all of your lines running into the building or into the home or into whatever the facility is connected to the meter, that is the responsibility of the customer. So whomever is the owner or the operator of that business or of that home, you are responsible for taking care of that part of it. So if there's a leak after the meter, you would have to fix that, replace the piping or whatever the case may be, so that you are your services continue properly. And in some cases, that may mean if you are having issues with discoloration in the water and the Department of Water and Power comes out, we do some water quality tests and we show you what the water is doing. If it continues after that, you may have some issues with the piping running from the meter into your home. Usually that's with older services where you find rust and such in the line. So this particular picture here is to show you who is responsible for what. Okay, so in a new water service, first we have to determine the need, or you have to determine the need of your operation. Whether it's a small operation or a large operation, you will need to determine how much water is going to be needed to grow or to service your retail establishment or whatever the case may be. That will entail understanding what the meter size to handle the flow of water you need is. And we have everything from 1-inch meters all the way up to very large meters that are for fire suppression and that type of stuff. You will want to work with a licensed plumber or a contractor in order to make sure that you understand what is needed in order to have adequate water to your operation. Now, your contractor or plumber can always call the department. We will help in any way that we can help determine exactly what is necessary for your operation as well, including whether or not you're going to need a pressure regulator so that your faucets and stuff don't keep blowing off because the pressure is too high. So our distribution division will certainly help with that. Okay, moving on then to some of the costs involved. Okay, LADWP water service charges are vary depending on the type of service that you are going to be installing, depending on the size of the meter, how many meters you're going to be installing. And once you have access to this presentation, this link, LADWP water service charges sheet, that will take you directly to the schedule of charges that you see a partial copy of over on the right. That will take you to that sheet so that you can have an idea of what it's going to cost in order to do this. And again, this is for new service where none exists before. This sheet does not have everything that you will pay because there are some additional charges that may apply for water main work, for fire hydrants, and whether or not you're going to have to repair the street if there's street damage while installing the service. Okay, so moving on to how you actually get, how you actually start this process, and something called a service request submittal. So the information that you're going to need in order to have this service request started is the service address that you're going to be working from. Please make sure that that service address is the actual address that the department, LADBS, Department of Building and Safety, and the Bureau of Engineering has. That is very extremely important. The size of the service that you need, right? You probably need a, not probably, you will need a plumbing permit if your size is 2 inches or larger. The legal description of the property is necessary as well. The usage information as well. So you will need to let us know exactly what the water is going to be used for. We don't really care what it's used for. We just need to know so that we can plan effectively for the water needs of the city. Then we'll need a contact name, phone number, email address, mailing address. We need to be able to get in touch with you for various number reasons. And if you have a site plan for this new service, that will be required as well, so that we can understand exactly what needs to happen here in terms of the service that you need. And as you can see, it is required for services of 3 inches or greater. If you have one for less than that and you provide that to us, we will be thankful as well. Moving on to the service request and scheduling portion, you can apply online for small services. Again, we have links available where it says small services 1 to 3 inch equivalent here. That is a link, as well as the larger services. It takes you directly to the DWP's website where you can apply online. You can call us at 213-367-2130 in order to apply as well, or you can do so in person at or DWP Distribution Engineering Section at or downtown office 111 North Hope Street. So there are a number of ways. You don't always have to come in. You can do it online or you can call. Please be aware that services online take a little longer because we do have to process the emails that you send in, etc., and it may take a day or two longer. So the timeline for scheduling, as you can see, for small services, you're looking at about 100 calendar days. Okay, not business days, but 100 calendar days. And for larger services, about 140. And these are estimates. That's what it's running at this time, but it all depends as well as on the complexity of what you're doing and whether or not your site is ready to do what has to be what is required of you at the time that the department is ready to start their work. In order, once you put your service request in order to track where we are in the process, you can use the link here, mywaterservice.waterapps.ladwp.com, and you will have an idea of where you are in the process along that 100 days or 140 calendar day period. Okay, now installation and billing. For installation, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, we will get all the permits that are required for you, and you'll receive emails from us once those are issued from LADBS, the Bureau of Engineering, Department of Transport, etc. And again, it all depends on the size of the service and the complexity that's involved as to who will get involved. More than likely, LADBS, which is the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety, you will need permits from them regardless of what size or complex or how complex your installation is. And then you will receive an email from us when everything is done, when the line is in, the meter is in, and we're ready to start service for you. Now, as far as the billing portion of it is concerned, you need to set up that account with our customer service group, and you can call 800 dial DWP, which equates to 1-800-342-5397. That's 1-800-342-5397, or you can go online to ladwp.com as well. And you want to do this prior to installation being complete. It's not a big deal if it's not done before, but that will allow you to have service turned on pretty much as soon as the meter is installed. Okay, so once you go to sign for service, you want to have the following information: Again, the service address, which is again the address that you'll see on the building. The entity name, if you are going to be operating under a company name, an LLC, a corporation, a partnership, whatever the case may be, you're going to need your IRS tax ID number or employer ID number, whichever you have, your California corporate number, and all the normal information on you, your contact name, phone number, etc. And also, we will need to know if there are any issues in terms of accessing the information. Now, this is more along the lines of your existing service. For a new service, we would obviously know where the meter is, and there shouldn't be any access issues at that point. But if you are starting a service where the line is already installed, you're just taking over the service, then we need to know, are there any gates? Are there any animals? Is there anything that would prevent our field service crew from coming to turn your service on? Or if there's anything we should know in terms of getting to that meter. Typically for a water meter, that's at the curb, so there are few issues with that. Sometimes you can have equipment on top of the meter or vehicles parked in an area where it doesn't allow us to access the meter. If those are issues, you need to let us know that ahead of time. Okay. And again, our contact information would be 1-800-DWP. You can apply online, and be aware when you are starting service with a new business entity, you're going to be required to leave a deposit. And this is for every business, no matter the size of the business, unless you have an established account with the Department of Water and Power under that same name. And that account would have to be in good standing in order for that deposit requirement to be waived. So if this is a second business for you and you are using the same business name as you had before, then the deposit issues may not apply. But if this is the first time you're starting up, a deposit would be required. And it will be dependent on the amount of water that that the service is going to have to provide for you. Okay. So we are going to move over to the portion with electricity now. Please have your questions available after everyone wraps up. We'll be more than happy to answer any water or electric-based questions. So I'll turn it over to Ed Lee now.
Okay, everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so as Raymond stated, I'll go over the electric portion of this starting your service with the Department of Water and Power. And with the electric service, you'll really need to determine what your power needs are. And you can consult an electrical contractor to help you with doing this. If there's existing service where you're going to start your business, then it's a simpler process, and I'll go over that shortly. But if there's no electrical infrastructure there, then you'll need to start new service. Or if you need to upgrade the service that exists because it isn't sufficient for your operations, then you'll also need to start new service. This process can be lengthy, and so we do offer temporary electric service for you while you're going through the new service process. And to help you with informing us of your needs, you'll complete and submit a service planning information form. This form will help you identify, how many amps you need, how many, what your panel will be, and how many phases you'll need coming in. So if you have small, large, or very large service, this will help us to determine how to move forward. We do offer a feasibility study. It is $1,500, but it is helpful in helping you to determine whether or not it's feasible for you to have the type of service that your operations will require at that address. And if you choose to go with the feasibility study, we do apply that cost, that $1,500 fee to your cost for your project. And you'll submit your plans to your service planning engineer or your electric service representative. We have on our website, we have the Find the Right Person. option for you to put in your address, and that will let you know who to contact to help you with getting started. Now you'll have a pre-construction meeting. This is where you'll be able to receive assistance from your engineer if it's a very large service, or your electric service representative. We have the 213 Empower line, which is 213-367-6937, and they'll be able to answer your questions or be able to assist you with making contact with the right or appropriate person. And you'll go through the process. You'll obtain all of your permits that you're required to get from the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety, LADBS. And we do track this information. So as you're going through the steps and you're getting all your permits and you're installing your service infrastructure, which are the things that are your responsibility, that electrical infrastructure and the permits are being tracked. After you've done that and you initiate the completion, and you go through the process, the completion of this process, it depends on how long it takes, depends on a few factors. And so that depends on the service size, whether or not it's an upgrade or there's existing infrastructure that you're upgrading, or if you need new service, how many people we have available at the time based on demands of other customers need a new service. There's a lot of factors. So this can take anywhere between 15 days and up to 4 years. The 4 years is for really, really large customers. And that just depends on the extent of the service that you'll be installing. And so you pay your service installation fees. As you pay your fees, it is important for you to sign up for your billing account. The account, you'll go to our website, or you'll go to a service center, or you'll call in to the 1-800 dial DWP line. And so they'll help you with starting your billing account. It's important that you do this before your project is complete, before we start to install our meter and begin our work, because if you already have your account set up, then when we install the work, the meter will be energized and you'll be ready to go. If you fail to do that before we install the meter, then you'll have to call us later. The service will be installed, it'll just be off, and then you'll have to call us and set up your billing account. So please try to do that before we begin our work, so then you'll have that service energized once it's installed. And so if there's existing service there, meaning it's sufficient for your operations and you don't need to upgrade anything, then it's pretty simple. You'll just really need to start your billing account at that point. I have the information listed here for you so that when you call or you go into our service center or you apply online, it'll be a quick and seamless process. If you have the service address where you want service, as Raymond said, that's the building address. You'll need your business information, your entity name, IRS, tax ID, your employer ID, your California Corp ID, or your LLC entity number, and you'll need contact information for the person who's responsible or of authority to make decisions. We do ask that you inform us if there's some access issues with electric service. The meter is on site, so it can be behind a locked gate, door. There may not be anyone present. You may have security guards, whatever the case may be. If you provide us with that information at the time that you're starting your account, that will prevent delays in us actually energizing the service and starting that application for you. And as Raymond pointed out, you can call us. You can also go on our website. Applying online does take a couple of days, and so it's not the fastest option, but calling over the phone or going into one of our service centers will help you get that taken care of the next business day. So we start service the next business day. We do require a deposit for entities that have not established a DWP account that's in good standing. Good standing is something that you achieve by making payments on time for 3 years, consecutively for 3 years. And so if that isn't you, you haven't reached that point yet, there will be a deposit that'll be required for you to start service. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Great information. We will save questions till the end. With that, next we have Thomas Wyatt with the LA Sanitation and Environment. Thomas began working for LA Sanitation and Environment's Industrial Waste Management Division in 2008. He spent several years working on the division's high school outreach program, Sewer Science, and the industrial classification program before getting placed to work on the cannabis permitting program in 2021. Thomas, please share your screen and start your presentation.
There we go. Sorry about that. Hi, Tom Wyatt. Pleasure to be here. So I'm from LA Sanitation Environment. Going to go through who I am, where I'm coming from, and how this affects you. Okay, so LA San, who we are. LA Sanitation and Environment, the Industrial Waste Management Division, that's where I'm from. So we're actually part of the city of Los Angeles, the Department of Public Works. And in Public Works, they have a bunch of different divisions, and sanitation is one of them. There's, I think it's like 40 different divisions that we have here in sanitation. My division handles industrial waste. So any business that discharges a liquid waste to the sewer system, that's who we handle. So LA San, that's what I'll call it from here. We have 4 water reclamation plants that process a combined 300 million gallons of wastewater per day. We have a service area of approximately 600 square miles. That has about 6,500 miles of sewer lines, interceptors, and pumping stations. So why we were established? The Clean Water Act in 1972 establishes the basic structure for regulating discharges of pollutants into the waters of the United States and regulating quality standards for surface waters. In accordance with the Clean Water Act, the City of Los Angeles has a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, which regulates discharges from the water reclamation plants into the waters of the United States. Basically, prior to 1972, a lot of different places in the US, they had different ways, everything wasn't standardized. There was a lot of pollutants that were getting discharged into our waterways. Clean Water Act came along, changed all of that. So basically my division existed prior to that, but once that was established, it kind of accelerated everything. So the Industrial Waste Management Division is charged with the following: to protect the publicly owned treatment works, POTW, from damage caused by prohibited pollutants, to ensure compliance with each water reclamation plant's NPDES permit, and that's done through the federal government, to protect the health and welfare of operational and maintenance personnel and the public, and to administer federal, state, and local discharge standards. So the question you might be asking yourself, how does this affect you? And Section 6430 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code, LAMC 6430, provides for the regulation of dischargers to the POTW through the issuance of industrial wastewater permits. This applies to all dischargers within the city of Los Angeles and to all persons outside the city of Los Angeles who discharge to the city's POTW. So if you're discharging something to the sewer system, Industrial Waste Management, my division, we're going to issue you a permit to make sure that you're not discharging anything that's going to mess up the system and will cause us to violate our NPDES permit that we have with the federal government. If we do violate it, I think the fines start at $10,000 per day and they go up from there. So we have every reason to make sure that nothing crazy gets discharged to the sewer system. Sewer system, we wouldn't have it if we didn't have all the residents paying into keeping it operating. So it's actually a privilege to be able to discharge to the sewer system. So Any business that discharges to the city's POTW is required to obtain a wastewater permit and operate according to the conditions stated in their wastewater permit. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself right there. So who needs a permit? And you can see here, cannabis retailers, cannabis cultivators, cannabis research and testing laboratories, commercial cannabis bakeries, cannabis products manufacturing and processing of goods, food and beverages, and cannabis products extraction and manufacturing. Now, do have a minor note. Operations that only perform cannabis delivery or storage need no discharge permit at this time. So let's say that you're in the business of delivering cannabis. That's what your business does. Just delivers it, doesn't open anything up. You have containers, you never touch anything. You could have a restroom that discharges to the sewer system. That's okay. That doesn't count. That's sanitary. You have no industrial wastewater discharge. So those ones don't have a permit, but these other 6 that you see here, those ones do require a permit. So cannabis retailers. This industry comprises establishments engaged in retailing cannabis and cannabis containing products. That's a lot of permits that we have. So that's fine. Cannabis cultivators. This industry includes establishments primarily engaged in growing cannabis indoors in a growing medium, soil or other type, and may or may not use artificial light fertilizers and pesticides to aid growth. I don't think anybody actually really uses pesticides, but it's just something that we put in there. Plants may also be grown indoors through the use of hydroponics. Cannabis research and testing laboratories. This industry comprises independent laboratories involved in research, development, and testing of cannabis products for the industry. These laboratories provide expertise in all facets of research, development, and analysis of raw materials, stability, related substances, impurities, and active assays for the cannabis industry. I should mention, probably should have said at the beginning, these different industries, you could have a retailer and a cultivation. We have a lot of those operations. You could have a retailer, you could be a research and testing lab and have any of those. You can have any combination of these, and that's fine. We can issue you a permit. We can take care of that. That's not a problem. Commercial cannabis bakeries. This industry comprises establishments engaged in manufacturing cannabis bakery products, including edibles such as gummies, candies, cookies, brownies, and chocolate. Cannabis manufacturers and processors. This industry comprises establishments engaged in the manufacture of edible and non-edible products containing cannabis, such as food products, alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks, vaping products, topical products, which might be waxes, lotions, balms, and ointments, and plant-derived products. And I think the last one here, the cannabis products extraction and manufacturing. This industry comprises establishments engaged in the manufacture and related research of cannabis-based products. These products are manufactured by extraction using volatile solvents. So if you're doing extraction and using volatile solvents, you're going to get a cannabis product extraction and manufacturing. Your permit's going to be this. If you're doing it without the use of volatile products, like I know there's a cold water process to extract what you need. That would be a cannabis manufacturers and processors. But if you have any questions, we can call us. We'd be happy to explain it to you. So, question you're probably asking yourself, how do you obtain a wastewater permit? New and existing businesses that do not already have a wastewater permit will need to complete a permit application and send the completed application and fee to Industrial Waste Management Division. Alternatively, new constructions will be referred to IWMD by the Department of Building and Safety. We receive a lot of cultivation operations through Department of Building and Safety. They send referrals to us. They bring their plans. We find them that way. So your wastewater permit information about it can be found at our website. We're developing a webpage for cannabis. It isn't finished yet, but we are working on that. Hopefully that will be done very soon. I was hoping it would be done before the end of the year, but it'll probably be done by the beginning of next year, and that will have the cannabis information on there. Currently, if you go to our website, you can find the permit and other permitting information. It's for everything. It's not just the cannabis specific one. So you'd want to go under the local industrial user permits, because that's what this group is for. So permit requirements. All permit types need a completed industrial wastewater discharge permit application. If you have any questions, you can contact my division. We'd be happy to talk to you, explain the requirements for the permit. We also have a plan submission requirement. Currently, we aren't doing plan checks in person, but you can drop off your plans. We will quarantine your plans for a period of time. We will get back to you and tell you if your plans are fine. So you need 3 copies of your site plans and process flow diagrams. Retailers don't need the process flow diagrams, or 3 copies of your floor and plumbing plans. You submit them to us. We take a look at them. If we see something that's wrong or needs to be changed, it doesn't meet the requirements, we will let you know. You then are supposed to resubmit the plans. We will stamp them. We keep a copy. We give a copy. We give 2 copies back to you. 1 copy you keep, and the other one goes to Department of Building and Safety for their records. Cannabis cultivators, they're the ones that we typically have coming through Department of Building and Safety. They'll know that they need that for. That's usually how we see most people these days. It's cannabis cultivators. All operations with cannabis cultivation need to submit a copy of their hazardous waste management plan submitted to the DCC. So if you're a cultivator, one of the requirements to get a license from the DCC is to have a hazardous waste management plan. All we need is a copy of that. If you are not a cultivator, we don't need obviously you wouldn't have a hazardous waste management plan. All we need in that case is either a waste management plan or your most recent manifest from a hazardous waste management hauler. Either one of those would suffice. And finally, all businesses must have a valid DCR license, or a permit cannot be issued by Industrial Waste Management Division. So that's huge. If you haven't talked to the DCR, which you're here, so obviously you probably are in this process, and you don't have to have a active license with DCR by the time we get to the end of the process, you'll probably have your license at that point. So if you're starting out the process and you don't have an active permit with DCR, it's okay, it's fine. When we get to the end, that's at the very end, right before we issue the permit, that's when we make sure that the permit is active. So how long will the permit process take to complete? And that is an interesting question. Time required to obtain an industrial discharge permit will vary, but usually takes between 6 months and a year to complete. It can take longer. I'll get to that in a second. An Industrial Waste Management Division inspector will visit the location to determine if the permit requirements are met prior to issuing the permit. So let's say that you decide today to start a cannabis cultivation business. You have the property identified. You are filing your license with DCC and DCR, and that stuff is underway. You go to Department of Building and Safety. They tell you to bring your plans, which you're gonna have to get developed, to us so we can give them our approval, so you can take it back to them. You're gonna go through construction at this point. And for some of the permits that take a really long time, it's because they're under construction for a very long time. Once your construction is done, our inspector will go out to your location and they will take a look around and make sure that you have built everything according to your plans. If we see anything that is not according to what we have and what we specify in the permit, we'll tell you to fix it. Hopefully that's an easy fix. Sometimes some crazy things happen and it's not necessarily an easy thing. So always try to make sure you go off of your plans and don't have somebody skip corners or anything like that. Anyways, if everything goes according to plans and it happens quickly, it could be done as early as 6 months, because we have, what is it right now? We're working on somewhere around number 150. We have that many that we have either issued permits to or we still have in the pending process. And I think by our estimate, we're expecting about 900 permits that we're going to have issued in the city. So we have a lot of permits that we're working on. So we try to get it to everybody as soon as possible, but you have to schedule inspections and go everywhere and stuff like that. So that's the reason why it might take that long. But usually most businesses, they're getting stuff set up. So if you get everything to us right away, usually you're not waiting on us to give the approval for your wastewater permit. So after the permit is issued, Once you got your permit, inspector will come out to your facility once per calendar year to ensure that your requirements are still being met. And a bill will be mailed quarterly to collect the necessary fees. Our inspector shows up once a year and they make sure that if you're a retail establishment, that maybe you have a micro business, but all you're doing is cultivation. I mean, all you're doing is retail, but then you decide to start doing some cultivation, you're growing stuff there. If you're doing that, we have to change your permit. And when the inspector shows up, they'll see that and they'll go through that whole process. We're not going to suspend your permit or anything like that. Your permit will keep on running. It's just that we're going to update it. And I think, don't remember 100%, but I think retail and cultivation, the cultivation permit, either it's slightly more than the retail or it's the same price for that. The highest tier that we have, and you can find out more information on our website, if you are doing extraction with volatile chemicals, that one actually, it has the highest cost associated because the potential for dangerous or pollutants that are bad for the system to be discharged. And this is actually a pretty cool thing. So our Cannabis Champion Group. So Industrial Waste Management Division has a nationally recognized program where IWMD staff and local industry collaborate to identify pollution prevention and reduction practices that are beneficial to industry, the public, and the environment. Okay, for instance, did you know that some cannabis waste may be composted instead of disposed via hazardous waste haulers? For more information on this and other pollution prevention and waste reduction ideas, please visit the IWMD website. We have a sector champion group page. We don't have a cannabis champion page yet, but that is something that will be coming. Basically, this group focuses on ways to help reduce your waste, or if your processes involve chemicals that aren't exactly environmentally friendly, we try to see what we can do to help make your practices more green. Maybe we're not going to find anything that is amazing or anything, but we might be able to find something that will help reduce your waste, your carbon footprint, something like that. So yeah, once we have that website, definitely go check that out. We might have some stuff that is beneficial for you. And I think that is it.
All right, great information. Thank you so much. We're going to move over to questions from our panelists, for our panelists, I should say. A lot of great information, but some really good questions as well to ask and to cover information-wise. So Thomas, I'll give you a quick break because I know that was a lot of great information. So I'm going to move over to Raymond and Anisha. And we'll start off. You guys can pick who's going to answer the question. How can I determine if my existing electrical service is large enough for my proposed electrical needs?
Well, that's a great question. I'll go ahead and answer that, Raymond. So existing electrical service, one thing I want to point out, the infrastructure is there. There's also a meter. So just to make that clear, there's a meter there, there's a panel. Well, after you've determined how much electrical power you're going to need, the total amps, your total electric amperage needs to be at or below the amps of the main switch or breaker. So that should be labeled, right? And so if your operational needs are at or below, then you're fine. But when your electrical needs exceed the capacity of your main breaker, or if you're unsure, then you'll need to contract an electrician. So you'll contact them and contract out their work and have them complete a service planning information form that you'll then submit to LADWP, because at that point, it's no longer existing service. You're going to need to go through our new electric service planning, our new electric service process. And so that's for an upgrade. And again, you go to our website, we have under commercial customers, new service, we have identified whether it's a small, a large, or very large. That depends on amperage. If it's small or large, then it's 400 amps or less. So it's up to 400 amps. And you'll submit that to your electric service representative. If it's a very large service that's over 400 amps, then you'll follow the process and submit that form, the service planning information form, to the engineer. So you go to our website and you'll be able to identify that and submit the information for the new service.
So it all boils down, it's all about the amps.
Yes.
I think there's a song, isn't there a song? It's all about the amps. I don't know, maybe not. All right. Thomas, I'm going to come back to you with a question. Are any cannabis businesses exempt from needing to obtain a permit for an industrial discharge?
Okay, so if you're doing delivery or storage of cannabis materials, so you're not actually opening anything up and everything just stays sealed up in containers, in that case, you wouldn't actually need to have a wastewater permit for cannabis because no cannabis is being touched inside the packages or anything. Otherwise, everything else, you are going to need a permit. So if you're retail, if you're a cultivator, if you're a bakery, if you're making lotions, creams, if you're making vaping products, all of those other ones, those are the ones that are going to need those are the ones that will need a permit. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Back to Raymond and Nisha. The next question is, where will my electrical service come into the building? Great question.
Another great question. I'll answer this, Raymond. And so to determine that, we offer free meter spots. And that's something that you can order or request rather on our website. And so you'll order the meter spot and we'll work with you. We'll come out, we'll determine the best location for your new electrical service. And you can also go online to request this, but it's helpful because then based on where our existing power lines or cables, the way we already have our service set up in that area, we'll be able to determine what's the best location for you. So we'll help you with that. You just have to request it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's good to know that all the agencies in LA City are more than willing, and it's been a recurring theme in the conversations, the webinars that we've been having and hosting, that all the city agencies are really eager to help out these businesses. So thank you for that. All right, Thomas, coming back to you. What does the inspector inspect during inspections? That's a lot of inspect in that sentence, but what does the inspector inspect during inspections?
Okay, so our inspector, they will come out and they will basically check all of your operation. It's not like they're checking your parking lot or anything like that. They'll go into your building. And so DWP, they bring you your water. You do whatever it is that you're going to do with your water, and it's then wastewater. It gets discharged to the sewer system, and our job is to make sure that whatever you have done with the water, now that it's industrial wastewater, that it's not something that's going to violate your permit conditions or will cause the city to violate its permit conditions with the federal government through their NPDES permit. So for that reason, whatever operations you have, they'll just go through, they'll check everything. They've already been there once before for their initial inspection where they're making sure that you're ready to start discharging your industrial wastewater. So when they go back for another check, which they do that once every calendar year, they will check your sample boxes. They will check if you have any wastewater pretreatment. Some places have clarifiers, like the cultivators. A lot of them, many will have clarifiers that they'll go and check, and they'll make sure that those are set up properly. That if they have any other processes that discharge wastewater, that it's hard piped to the sewer system, so that way nothing can be moved around and changed very easily, so that whatever it says in the building plans, everything is going according to that. So whatever permit requirements that we have, everything is still being met according to that. It's not an issue with, so the part earlier where it was talking about pesticides for cultivators, cannabis people don't use pesticides because that would ruin your product, and then that would make all of your efforts completely meaningless. Well, the reason why we actually have that in there is because pesticides are very bad for the way that we treat wastewater. We have microorganisms and bacteria that treats our wastewater, and if anybody discharges pesticides and stuff in the sewer system, it's going to cause an upset at our treatment plant. It's not going to work the way that it's supposed to. It'll cause us to have to run the plant a little bit longer to treat the wastewater because it's a continuous process. So it's things like that we want to make sure never gets discharged. I don't think anyone's really going to discharge any pesticides. Why would you do that if it's something you had to go buy? But there might be something else that you're possibly using that you're discharging that you're thinking, oh, okay, this is a benign chemical, but actually it might be something that we have an issue with. So that's the reason why we go out every year to make sure that the permit nothing crazy is going on, so the system continues to operate, that we don't make the citizens liable for huge fines from the EPA or anything like that. So that's what they're doing. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer.
No, it was a lot of good information, comprehensive. We like that. All right, back to the DWP team. Next question is there a way that I can tell if there's enough water for my business?
Good question. And is there a way that you can tell? Yes, typically there is going to be enough water, right? However, in terms of what the equipment that you'll need in order to bring enough water through the system to your property is something that you would have to have a licensed plumber or a plumbing contractor come out and help you determine. You can always talk to our water new business folks, and our engineers can also assist in that process as well, recommending size of meter and that type of stuff. Now, if you're talking about, say, fire protection, sprinklers and that type of stuff, then you would be smart to get a sprinkler engineer who can really let you know how many sprinkler heads you'll need for the amount of space you have, for the type of operation that you're planning on having. And that too, once they understand what you have there, they can contact us, and we can also assist them in that process by letting them know about the pressure of the water and whether or not it's going to be enough to serve the size of the operation and the number of sprinkler heads and such that you need. And that's why plans are very important as well, so that we can tell what the water has to do in order to get to where it needs to go.
Awesome. Great information. All right, in the time we have left, as we're winding down, I do something, this is about my 80th webinar that I've moderated, you can probably tell. I like to do something as we wrap up at every webinar. So this is what I do. I'm going to ask each of you to give your one key takeaway. If you had just one takeaway that you want everyone listening and everyone that's going to listen to this after it's been uploaded to the DCR website, what do you want businesses to know? And we're going to start off with you, Anisha.
I would like businesses to know that you're not in this alone. We are available to assist you. We have created several avenues for you to start service and to make it easy for you. And so our website is a great resource. Also, calling us and speaking to one of our customer service representatives is also very helpful. And you can always visit any of our service centers, and we'll be more than happy to assist you with this. So don't be intimidated by the process. We're here to help you. Just seek out the support you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Raymond, you're up.
Okay. What you really want to do is have a plan, right? Do not go into this without a plan. If you want your business to be successful, you need to know where you are and where you need to go. And in that plan, certainly plan to talk to the Department of Water and Power early and often, because as Anisha says, we can help you with a lot of the service needs that you have. So have your plan, stick to your plan, and talk with us early.
That's awesome. That's great business advice and great life advice. Have a plan, know where you are, know where you want to go. I like that. That's great. All right, Thomas, we're going to wrap it up with you. What's the one key takeaway?
So if you're in LA and you are going to open up a cannabis business that has a wastewater discharge, so you're discharging something to the sewer system, you are going to need a permit. And you can go to our website, www.lacity. One second. lacitysan.org. Sorry about that. And we have information there. You can contact us and you can get a permit. It's not a horribly awful complex thing. We can talk you through. It's not a problem, but that is it.
Awesome. On behalf of DCR and everyone listening, I'd like to say very heartfelt thank you for your presentations, for sharing such great information. And thank you for all the people that tuned in for attending this informative webinar offered again by the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. This webinar recording will be found on DCR's website, cannabis.lacity.org. If you have any questions on accessing your account, accessing your account, please email dcr.sep@lacity.org. Thank you all again for joining us and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.